Just as my mom's best friend knocked on my bedroom door with a flushed face, I kicked her straight into my frenemy's room. It was because in my past life, I had fallen for my mom's best friend. When she was drunk, she pulled me into her bedroom. After we were discovered the next day, she had no choice but to marry me. On our wedding day, her childhood sweetheart, Liam Donovan, was so heartbroken that he was tragically hit by a car that had lost control. Before he died, her sweetheart sent Chloe one last text message. "Chloe, let's be together in the next life." Chloe stared at the text and was silent all night. After calmly handling Liam's funeral, she married me. As I lay dying on the operating table, I heard the doctor call her. Her voice on the other end was as cold as ever. "Is he dead? Don't call me again until he is." In that moment, I finally understood. She hated me. She hated that I had willingly been her cure, and she hated that my actions had indirectly led to Liam's death. The moment I died on that operating table, my life flashed before my eyes. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at that cocktail party from years ago. Chloe was already dazed, her glossy red lips slightly parted, letting out a soft moan from time to time. The weight pressing against my arm made me realize I had been reborn. Without a moment's hesitation, I pulled my phone from my pocket and dialed Liam's number. 10 minutes later, Liam rushed over. I quickly grabbed his hand and said, "I know she likes you, and you like her too. She's drunk right now, and she needs you." Liam had been skeptical when he got the call, and now, hearing my words, his expression grew complicated, as if he feared a trap. "Ethan, what the hell are you playing at? I thought you were in love with Chloe. She's drunk, and instead of taking this chance to make a move, you call me over and say you want to set us up." Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh bitterly at myself. I used to think that if I just tried hard enough, I could overcome the differences in our status and age. But now I see that if she doesn't love me, no amount of effort will lead to anything but a lifetime of misery. I shook my head. I don't love her anymore. I never will again. Just as I finished speaking, a muffled groan came from the room. It sounded like she couldn't hold out much longer. "If you don't go in now, you'll be too late." Liam followed my gaze to the room. A flicker of hesitation crossed his face before he gritted his teeth, seemingly convinced. "Then what are you still doing here? You planning on listening in?" I tensed for a moment, then stepped aside to let him into the room. The moment Liam's hand touched Chloe's face, I shut the door without a second thought. Muffled groans began to seep from behind the thick door, each sound like a sledgehammer shattering my heart. I stumbled back to my own room in a daze. That night, the two of them in the next room gave in to their desires, while I lay awake until dawn. As dawn broke, my mother called. "Ethan, would you like to come live with me in London?" A few years ago, when the Hayes Corporation planned its overseas expansion, my mother moved to London by herself. Worried she couldn't look after me, she left me in the care of her close friend, Chloe Sterling. I'd been living with her for years. Later, I fell in love with Chloe, so even after the company's London operations were stable, I refused my mother's repeated offers to have me join her. Now that Chloe and Liam were finally together, it was time for me to leave and start my own life. With that thought, I took a deep breath. "Mom, I'll come to London." My mother sounded shocked by my sudden agreement, her voice filled with excitement. "Son, you've finally seen the light. I told you long ago that Chloe wasn't right for you. You were too obsessed and it was never going to work out. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be in love, but you have to find the right person. I found a fiancé for you, someone your own age. When you get to London, spend some time with her. I'm sure you two will be perfect together." Her words made my already swollen eyes well up with tears again. In my last life, my mother had given me the same advice, but I wouldn't listen, and I ended up wasting my entire life. I dug my nails into my palm and forced a smile. "Mom, I'll do whatever you say. I'll go start the immigration paperwork right away." After hanging up, I quickly wiped my tears, grabbed my documents, and got ready to leave. But the moment I opened my door, I ran straight into her. The cluster of fresh bruises on Chloe's neck came into view without any warning. I knew they must have been intimate, but seeing the proof still made me silently look away. Chloe noticed my subtle movement, and seeing my red-rimmed eyes, she immediately put two and two together. Her tone turned cold, laced with accusation. "Ethan, whether you like it or not, Liam and I are together. I'm going to marry him. As long as you're living here, you will respect him. And don't you ever say those ridiculous things to me again." I lowered my gaze and replied calmly, "I understand, Miss Sterling." The name Miss Sterling made Chloe flinch. She gave me a long look. She couldn't remember the last time I had called her that. When I first moved in with her, I always called her Aunt Chloe. But after I developed feelings for her, I started calling her by her first name and refused to call her aunt ever again. She frowned, but before she could speak, a man's voice from behind her shattered the tense silence. "Chloe, I brought my bags. Which room is mine?" Chloe snapped out of it and walked gently to Liam's side. "You love the sun, and Ethan's room faces south. It gets the best light. I'll have him move to the guest room, and you can have it." Liam's eyes glinted with triumph, but he feigned reluctance. "Oh, I couldn't possibly. I'm the guest here after all. It's better if I take the guest room." He then made a show of turning to head downstairs. In the next instant, Chloe grabbed his hand. "You're going to be my husband, the man of this house. How could you stay in a guest room? But Ethan's been in that room for so long. Won't it be hard for him to move out on such short notice?" Hearing this, Chloe glanced at me. "What's there to get used to? He'll have to get used to me being married, get used to a man being in this house, and get used to the fact that he's just a guest here." My eyelashes fluttered as a bitter smile formed on my lips. A guest? Yes, she was right. I was just a guest. I forced a smile. "I'll pack my things and move to the guest room right now." It didn't matter. I would be leaving soon to be with my mother, and I would never come back, never set foot in this place again. From now on, this would be Chloe and Liam's home. For the next few days, I was at the embassy handling my paperwork, leaving early and coming home late specifically to avoid Chloe. But no matter how much I tried to avoid them, I couldn't escape seeing how much Chloe doted on Liam. When Liam's appetite was poor, she hired a series of celebrity chefs to cook for him at home. When he felt unwell, she canceled a billion-dollar contract to stay by his side. When he casually mentioned a watch he liked, she had it delivered to him within 10 minutes. I watched all of this in silence without making a sound. While waiting for my visa to be processed, I began to pack my belongings. I packed my suitcases first, then gathered all the old love letters and sketches I'd made for Chloe into a box, intending to throw it all away. Just as I got to the door, I ran into Chloe coming back with dessert for Liam. I pretended not to see her and tried to walk past without making eye contact, but she grabbed my wrist. "Have you been avoiding me?" I frowned. "No." She stepped closer, studying my evasive look. "You leave early and come back late. You walk right past me without a word. If that's not avoiding me, what is? Why? Is it because I'm with Liam?" Quickly shook my head. "No. Miss Sterling, I'm genuinely happy that you can be with the person you love. I truly wish you both the best. And don't worry, I understand now that you could never love me, so I've stopped loving you." I stated it as a simple fact, but Chloe's face darkened, as if my words were a personal insult. After confessing my love to her time and time again, only to be rejected every single time, I was now just saying I didn't love her anymore? So, after confessing and being rejected, after pestering me and being rejected, you've decided to try a new tactic? Is this your way of getting my attention? She stared at me as she spoke, her expression faltering for a second before hardening again, as if my reaction only confirmed her suspicions. She advanced on me, her eyes falling on the box in my arms, her voice growing colder. "You say you don't love me anymore? So what are these? Love letters? All these sketches you secretly drew of me? After chasing me relentlessly for years, you expect me to believe you just stopped loving me overnight? Ethan, don't you hear how ridiculous you sound?" I looked at her quietly. How could I not know how absurd it sounded? After all, if you cry wolf enough times, no one will believe you. But as ridiculous as it sounded, it was the truth. I loved you for a very long time, but you will never love me back. So I've really given up. With that, right in front of her, I dumped the contents of the box onto the floor and began tearing every letter and every sketch to pieces. As the paper scraps fluttered around us like snow, I saw her expression, far from relieved, grow even darker. Just when I thought I must be mistaken, her icy voice cut through the air. "Keep pretending. Remember this, Ethan. No matter what games you play, the only person I will ever love is Liam." After that day, Chloe and I didn't speak another word to each other. I had nothing left to say, and she, convinced I was just playing hard to get, wanted nothing to do with me. This stalemate lasted until the Sterling family's annual dinner party. At past family dinners, I had always been the center of attention, doted on by Chloe's parents. The whole Sterling clan would crowd around me, and Chloe would always have to rescue me from their endless questions. But now all their attention was on Liam. He was, after all, the future man of the house. I was just a guest. They knew who mattered and who didn't. In a single morning, I saw just how much the Sterlings valued Liam. The moment Liam walked in, Mrs. Sterling presented him with the Sterling family signet ring, an heirloom I hadn't even laid eyes on in my previous life. Once dinner started, the family immediately began discussing wedding dates for the two of them. The party ended with a date set for the wedding. Just as I was about to leave with Chloe, her mother stopped me, saying she needed to speak with me privately. As soon as we were in the study, she got straight to the point. "Ethan, you need to leave Chloe alone. You know she and Liam are together now. Staying here will only cause trouble for her and humiliate you." She made no effort to hide her disdain, and a bitter feeling rose in my chest. Mrs. Sterling used to be very fond of me, but that fondness vanished the day I confessed my feelings for Chloe. Everyone called me shameless and absurd. I dug my nails into my palm. "Don't worry, I'm leaving." Then, I took my visa papers out of my bag and showed them to her. "I called my mom a few days ago. I told her I'm moving to London to live with her. She's even found a fiancé for me. I'll stay far away from Chloe. I won't bother her again." After examining the documents thoroughly, her expression softened slightly. "See that you do." I only relaxed after she left, putting the papers back in my bag to leave. But as I stood up, I found myself face to face with Chloe, who was standing in the doorway. "Who are you staying away from?" I didn't know how much she'd heard, but I instinctively didn't want her to know I was leaving the country. So I just shook my head. "No one. You must have misheard." I didn't look at her again and turned to go, but her voice stopped me. "I know you don't want to go to London. After Liam and I are married, you don't have to move out. Your mother and I are best friends. I can take care of you for the rest of your life." Her words made my eyes go wide with shock. Even Liam, who had come looking for her, froze in place. It wasn't until I saw the hatred in Liam's eyes that I snapped out of it and quickly left. I didn't pay any mind to what Chloe had said that day. I just focused on getting my visa and leaving. But Liam wouldn't leave me alone. One day, he insisted on taking me out to play basketball. Shortly after we got in the car, I was knocked out. When I came to, I was tied up on a seaside cliff. Across from me, Liam was tied up as well. I struggled against the ropes, demanding to know why he had done this. Liam sneered. "Ethan, I didn't want to kidnap you, but what Chloe said the other day has been bothering me. I just wanted to prove, once and for all, who's more important to her." A wave of despair washed over me. What was there to prove? The answer was already obvious. Soon, Chloe arrived, having gotten the message from the kidnappers. She threw 2 briefcases of cash on the ground and yelled, "I brought the money! Let them go!" But the kidnapper, following Liam's script, didn't budge. "Ms. Sterling," he said slowly, "I didn't do this for the money." Chloe's expression shifted, her voice turning to ice. "What do you mean?" The man put a hand on both my shoulder and Liam's, grinning. "I hear one of these men is your dear friend's son, and the other is your fiancé. You can only save one. The other gets thrown to the sharks. Your choice." As he spoke, he loosened the ropes, and both Liam and I dangled precariously over the ocean. Liam's face went pale with fear, his voice trembling. "Chloe, save me. I don't want to die." Chloe's heart seized. "Don't move, Liam." The answer was obvious. The kidnapper smiled, satisfied. Even Liam, feigning terror, let out a sigh of relief and looked at Chloe with mock gratitude. But then, Chloe's eyes instinctively flickered toward me. She must have expected me to be devastated, to be in despair, but my face was a mask of calm. For some reason, my calmness seemed to unnerve her. Before she could speak, Liam, now untied, threw himself into her arms. She instinctively hugged him back, but in the next second, her pupils contracted in horror as my rope was cut, and I plunged straight into the sea below. With a splash, the ocean swallowed me whole. The current pulled me down. I fought to swim to the surface, but a wave of exhaustion washed over me. My eyelids grew heavy, and I lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I was in a hospital, and Chloe was sitting by my bed. Her eyes were bloodshot. She had clearly been there for days, but I no longer needed her vigil. We stared at each other in silence for a long time. Finally, I broke the silence. "Ms. Sterling, you don't have to stay here. You should go check on Liam. He needs you more." Feeling that might have sounded harsh, I added, "I can take care of myself." Chloe looked stunned. She stared at me with a complex expression for a long moment before finally getting up to leave. The day I was discharged from the hospital was Liam's birthday. Since it was his first birthday since they'd gotten together, Chloe threw him a lavish party. Piles of expensive gifts were stacked in the corners, and photos of the happy couple lined the path from the entrance to the main hall. The party reached its peak with a spectacular fireworks display. Chloe, arm in arm with Liam, glided across the dance floor while a slideshow of their happiest moments played on a large screen behind them. Just as the guests were swooning over their love story, the screen went black. Then, it lit up again, displaying my childish love letters and sketches. My deep, unrequited love for Chloe was laid bare for everyone to see. The room erupted in murmurs. That Hayes boy still hasn't given up, has he? How shameless. This is Mr. Donovan's birthday party. What a blatant provocation. Poor Mr. Donovan. The chatter finally caught the attention of the couple on the dance floor. When Liam saw the screen, the color drained from his face. He shot a trembling, furious look at me, the culprit, before running out of the room with tears in his eyes. Chloe's heart sank. She started to run after him, but then she saw me, standing frozen in place. She stopped, turned, and slapped me across the face. The sharp crack of the slap silenced the entire room. Ethan, I was wondering why you'd been so well behaved. So this is what you were planning. The force of the blow made my face swell instantly. My ears rang and my vision blurred. Trembling, I touched my cheek. It was the first time Chloe had ever hit me. Before I could even process it, she was gone, out the door. I took a deep breath and ran after them. I was terrified Liam would get into an accident, just like in my past life. A clap of thunder, and the sky opened up, a torrential downpour washing over the world. Through the curtain of rain, I saw Chloe trying to hold on to Liam. He kept struggling, his voice filled with despair. This was supposed to be one of the most important days of my life, and he ruined it. How could you expect me to stay in there? Since he's still so obsessed with you, I'm not going to compete with a kid. Why don't I just give you back to him? But Chloe held him tighter. No, Liam, I could never love him. You know how long I've loved you. Pushing me away to be with someone else? You're tearing my heart out. As she spoke, she leaned in to kiss him. But in the next instant, a pair of blinding headlights bore down on them. I had just caught up to them when my world turned red. I froze, completely paralyzed. The light outside the trauma bay was on. Doctors rushed in with equipment to treat Chloe. But Chloe, ignoring her own injuries, insisted they save Liam first. But Ms. Sterling, you're the one who's more seriously hurt. Her voice was weak and trembling. Don't worry about me. Save him. Left with no choice, the doctors rushed the unconscious Liam into surgery. But a few moments later, a doctor rushed out. The patient is hemorrhaging. We need a type A donor now. Hearing this, Chloe ignored the nurse's protests and got out of her bed. I am. Take my blood. But Ms. Sterling, don't argue. Just do it. Soon, bags of blood filled the medical tray beside her, and Chloe's face grew deathly pale. Only when she was sure Liam's life was no longer in danger did she allow them to wheel her into surgery. I couldn't watch anymore. I turned and walked out. I knew Chloe loved Liam enough to die for him. If only I had realized that in my last life, maybe my own end wouldn't have been so tragic. In this life, I had changed things, but Liam still ended up in a car crash. And the root of it all was my letters and sketches. I had no idea how they had gotten out. I had torn them to shreds myself. Thinking back, the only person who could have saved them and then displayed them like that was Liam. But why would he do it? He and Chloe were already together. I couldn't understand it, and I didn't dare to dwell on it. I spent 3 days at home in a fog. Then Chloe was discharged. The first thing she did when she got home was have her bodyguards throw me into the walk-in freezer. The moment they threw me in, a bone-chilling cold enveloped me. Staring at the sterile white walls, I gave a bitter smile. I couldn't remember the last time I'd felt this cold. I'd accidentally fallen through the ice of a frozen lake as a child, and my health had been poor ever since. I was extremely sensitive to the cold, so the heat in the house was always kept high, making it feel like spring year-round. But now, Chloe was using the cold to punish me, all because she thought I was still obsessed with her and had indirectly hurt Liam. I curled into a ball, trying to generate some warmth, but it was useless. All I could do was let out a few pained whimpers. One of the staff outside the freezer couldn't stand it. Just go and apologize to Ms. Sterling, he whispered. Your body can't take this. My eyes welled up. In my last life, I was wrong. I admit it. But in this life, I've done nothing wrong. Why should I be the one to apologize? Besides, Chloe was so consumed with Liam right now, she wouldn't listen to a word I said anyway. The frigid air bit at me from all sides, and soon frost began to form on my eyelashes. I could feel my heartbeat slowing, my consciousness fading. Finally, I closed my eyes and slipped into darkness. When I woke up, I was back in my bed. Chloe was standing beside the bed, her expression glacial. After the disaster you caused, I should have left you in there for 3 days. It was Liam, with his kind heart, who begged me to let you out. I knew you were still obsessed with me, so let me make this clear, Ethan. I could never fall in love with a boy 12 years younger than me. It will never, ever happen. With that, she slammed the door shut. The sound of the slamming door drowned out any explanation I might have offered. I leaned back against the headboard, closed my eyes, and let out a long sigh. Chloe, I really don't love you anymore. For the next few days, the Sterling mansion was a hive of activity as everyone prepared for Chloe and Liam's upcoming wedding. Liam, in the midst of directing the staff, pulled me aside with a warm smile, acting as if nothing unpleasant had ever happened between us. The venue and decorations are almost set. All we need now is a best man. I think you'd be perfect for the job, Ethan. Soak up some of the good vibes. Maybe even meet a nice bridesmaid. He finished with a teasing wink. I wasn't as good an actor as he was. I pulled my arm from his grasp. Just as I was about to refuse, a cool voice came from behind us. He can't be the best man. Liam and I both turned to see Chloe standing there. Why not? Liam seemed surprised by her refusal. Chloe didn't answer him, her eyes fixed on me. I had been more compliant lately, and I hadn't been clinging to her. But the thought of me with a girlfriend of my own made her feel a strange sense of unease. She couldn't explain why. Chloe lowered her gaze, about to make up an excuse, when I spoke up. I'm much younger than you both. It wouldn't be appropriate for me to be the best man. Besides, I'm leaving for London soon, so I won't be able to attend the wedding anyway. Hearing this, Chloe nodded in agreement, and Liam finally dropped the subject. I breathed a sigh of relief and was about to leave, but then Liam spoke again. Since you can't be my best man, Ethan, how about you give me that suit you designed, as a wedding gift? I've always loved it. At his words, I instinctively looked at Chloe. I had designed that suit when I was 18, and it had even won an award. Plenty of wealthy heirs had tried to buy it for their own weddings, but I had turned them all down, because I had designed it for myself, to wear when I married the woman I loved. Chloe knew what the suit meant to me, but not wanting to disappoint Liam, she said, Ethan, sell me the suit. I'll give you anything you ask for. I forced a smile. That's not necessary. Liam is right, I should give you my blessing. Consider the suit an early wedding present. I made a call, and a little while later, a courier delivered the suit from the boutique where it was stored. I handed it to Liam myself. Thrilled to have the suit, Liam forgot all about bothering me and rushed off to try it on. I watched him go, my face a blank mask, then turned and went back to my room. Only Chloe remained, watching my retreating back, lost in thought. In the early hours of the morning, I was in my room packing. My bags were nearly packed, and my paperwork was almost complete. I would be able to leave soon. I had just hidden my suitcase and was about to get into bed when the door was thrown open. Before I could react, Chloe stormed in, grabbed my wrist, and unleashed a torrent of accusations. What did you do to that suit? Liam only tried it on for a minute, and now he's covered in an itchy rash. Ethan, are you trying to kill him? In the dim light, her furious gaze was like a knife, ready to tear me apart. I shook my head frantically. I never touched it. I couldn't have done anything to it. I have no reason to hurt him. Her face darkened, and she shoved me onto the bed. Her eyes were like ice, her voice seething with rage. No reason? I know you're still obsessed with me, but you never should have hurt Liam. You better pray he's all right or else. Before she could finish, the housekeeper burst in. Ma'am, it's terrible. Mr. Donovan has collapsed. Watch him, Chloe snapped. Don't let him leave. Her face contorted with panic, and she rushed out of the room. The lights in the Sterling mansion stayed on all night. I sat on the sofa, my anxiety growing, digging my nails into my palms so hard they bled, but I didn't feel a thing. I just stared at the clock on the wall. I watched the hands of the clock move from midnight to 7 in the morning. Just as the clock struck the hour, I heard hurried footsteps approaching the door. Chloe's eyes were terrifyingly dark, filled with a rage that sent a chill down my spine. She took a long whip from one of the staff and advanced on me, step by step. Ethan, do you have any idea? Liam almost died. Hearing that Liam had almost died shocked me to my core, but then a cold clarity washed over me. That's right. In my past life, this was the exact time he died in the car crash. I didn't have time to think. Seeing Chloe, ready to beat me to avenge Liam, my eyes welled up. I didn't do anything to the suit, I pleaded. I never wanted to hurt him, from the kidnapping to the letters at the party to the suit today. Don't you think any of this is strange? Even if I wanted to frame him, how could I possibly succeed every single time? I thought that the ever-cautious Chloe would see the holes in the story, but blinded by rage, she just sneered. So what you're saying is that Liam has been framing you all this time? I love him. I'm going to marry him. Why on earth would he need to frame you? That's what I don't understand either. I really don't know. Before I could finish, A pained grunt escaped my lips. Chloe had brought the whip down hard across my back. "Ethan, you just refused to learn." The color drained from my face, and a bitter smile touched my lips. Liam was the one she loved. How could I have been so naive as to think she would ever believe me? I tried to scramble away, but her bodyguards rushed forward and pinned me to the floor. "Ethan, will you admit you were wrong?" Chloe yelled as the whip came down again. I trembled with pain, but I clenched my fists and refused to make a sound. When I didn't answer, she brought the whip down on my back again. "I'll ask you one more time. Will you admit you were wrong?" But I just lay there, my lips sealed shut. I hadn't done anything wrong. Why should I confess? My stubbornness truly angered her, and she began whipping my back again and again. Soon, my back was a bloody mess, but I still refused to submit. Finally, the butler, unable to watch any longer, stepped forward and grabbed her wrist. "Miss Sterling, if you keep this up, you're going to kill him." Only then did she stop. She tossed the whip aside. "Ethan," she said coldly, "don't let there be a next time." I couldn't hold on any longer. My head fell forward, and I blacked out. For the next few days, Chloe didn't come home. I was covered in welts, in too much pain to even get out of bed. After several days of recovery, I was finally able to walk again. The day I felt better, I got a call from the embassy. My residency visa was approved. Now that I had my visa, there was no reason for me to stay at the Sterling mansion any longer. After picking up my passport, I went back to the house, packed my last few things, and dragged my suitcase to the door. I didn't expect to run right into Chloe on her way in. Before I could react, she spoke, her voice cold. "Ethan, how old are you? Still playing at running away from home? I've told you so many times to stop having feelings for me, but you refuse to listen, and you keep hurting Liam. Was I wrong to punish you?" Hearing her words, I just felt utterly exhausted. I didn't know how many more times I would have to tell her I didn't love her before she would finally believe me. My silence only made her expression darken. Finally, she rubbed her temples. "Fine. If you want to go away for a while to clear your head, go ahead. Liam hasn't been well, and I'm busy with the wedding. It's probably for the best if you're not here. Who knows what you might do to him." With that, she took my suitcase. "I'll drive you to the airport myself." I didn't argue or try to explain. I just followed her quietly. The car sped along, and soon we were at the terminal. As I was getting my suitcase out of the car, she finally asked, "Where's your flight to?" My lips parted to speak, but she cut me off, her voice icy. "Just stick to the nearby cities. Don't go too far. After the wedding, I'll come and get you." This time, I didn't say anything else. I just nodded obediently. "I understand, Ms. Sterling." After we said our goodbyes, I walked into the airport, feeling her eyes on my back. Once her car had disappeared into traffic, I took out my phone, blocked her number, and then walked to my gate without a backward glance. A week later, the Sterling Donovan wedding of the century took place as planned. Considering Liam's recent health scare, the ceremony was kept simple. But even simplified, the sheer luxury of the event left the guests breathless. Each guest received a party favor worth a small fortune upon arrival. Everything from the place settings to the decor was custom designed. Every detail was a testament to Chloe's profound love for Liam. The guests couldn't help but murmur in admiration. Ms. Sterling and Mr. Donovan seemed so in love. I heard they were childhood sweethearts. That's right. I heard she nearly died saving his life after that accident. To marry someone like Ms. Sterling, a man could die happy. Chloe paid no mind to the guests' chatter. She was staring at her phone, a hesitant look in her eyes. By her calculations, I should have landed and checked into my hotel last night, but she hadn't received a single call or text from me. After all, my mother had entrusted me to her care. If something happened to me, she would have to answer to her. With that thought, she sent me a text, "How are you?" The moment she hit send, the wedding planner knocked on her door. "Miss Sterling, the ceremony is about to begin. It's time to get ready." Chloe quickly set her phone down on a nearby table. "I'll be right there." Just as she closed the door, the screen of her phone, which hadn't yet gone dark, lit up. Next to the message she had just sent, a bright red exclamation point appeared. As the piano played, Liam stood at the end of the floral archway, his eyes full of love, as Chloe walked down the aisle toward him. It should have been a thrilling moment, but Chloe felt strangely calm. As Liam grew closer, for some reason, an image of me flashed in her mind. Me, dressed in a suit, looking at her with love in my eyes, gently saying her name. The image of me suddenly superimposed itself over Liam. Liam waved, calling out to her with concern. "Chloe, are you all right?" Chloe snapped back to reality, shaking her head to clear the image of me from her mind. A gentle smile touched her lips. "It's nothing. You look very handsome today." Her casual compliment made Liam blush. Soon, the officiant had them join hands and began the vows, asking Chloe if she would take Liam as her husband. She should have answered without hesitation, but for a moment, she was silent. Her gaze drifted from Liam's expectant face to the equally expectant faces of the guests, and finally, to the empty entrance of the church. A long time ago, I had sworn that if she ever dared to marry another man, I would crash the wedding. Chloe knew I wasn't joking, which was why she had posted extra security at the doors today, just in case. But now, halfway through the ceremony, the boy who had promised to crash her wedding was nowhere to be seen. It should have been a relief, but she felt no joy at all. Could it be true? Had I really meant it when I said I didn't love her anymore? The thought had barely formed before she dismissed it. Impossible. I had been madly in love with her. For me to stop loving her would be more painful than death itself. I had to be playing hard to get. At that thought, a cold glint appeared in her eyes. No matter what I did, she would never love me. Her one true love was Liam. She pushed the thoughts from her mind and looked at her groom, speaking each word with solemn gravity. "Liam, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, I will take you as my husband, and I will never leave your side. In this life and the next, for all of eternity, you will be my only husband." Her heartfelt declaration brought tears to Liam's eyes. He responded in kind, and they shared a passionate kiss. The rest of the wedding went off without a hitch. None of Chloe's fears came to pass. There was no dramatic interruption, no scene. Even her friends commented on how focused and present she seemed, more so than they had ever seen her. But only Chloe knew the truth. Her mind had not been on the wedding at all. An image of someone else kept intruding, disturbing her peace. While Liam went to their room to rest, Chloe had the butler bring her phone. When she saw the red exclamation point in her iMessage chat, she froze. In all the years I had fought with her, I had never once blocked her number. So I really was just playing hard to get. Chloe rubbed her temples and dialed my number. She already had her speech prepared. "The number you have dialed is not in service. Please check the number and try again." Chloe slammed the phone face down on the table. "Fine, Ethan, just fine. You actually dared to block me." She decided to let it go. When she went to pick me up, I would come back obediently, wouldn't I? After all, I loved her so much. Even married, I wouldn't be able to stay away. The thought calmed her. But my mother had entrusted me to her. If something were to happen to me, she would have to answer for it. With that in mind, she made another call. "Find out what city Ethan flew to. Once you have his location, send a team to look after him." That night, just as she had gotten Liam to sleep, there was a knock on the bedroom door. Making sure he was still asleep, Chloe quietly slipped out of bed. But the moment the door clicked shut, Liam's eyes snapped open. In the study next door, Chloe's face grew grim. "Say that again. Where did he go?" Her assistant swallowed hard. "We've checked every travel manifest out of New York. There's no record of Mr. Hayes, and all of his official records in the US have been expunged. We suspect he's left the country, but we don't know where he went. Miss Sterling, should we inform his mother? He is her son, after all." Chloe was stunned into silence, a hot rage spreading through her. She had thought blocking her number was the extent of my courage. She never imagined I would leave the country behind her back. "How dare I?" "Ms. Sterling." Seeing her silence, the assistant cautiously prompted her again. Chloe took a deep breath, forcing her anger down. "Not yet. Keep looking for him." She refused to believe that the boy who had loved her so desperately would stay away forever. The assistant hesitated for a moment before nodding and turning to leave, nearly running into Liam, who was standing in the doorway. "Sir." The assistant's greeting drew Chloe's attention. Her expression softened as she picked up a blanket from a nearby chair and walked toward Liam. "Why are you awake? Are you cold?" She draped the blanket over his shoulders and took his hands in hers to warm them. Liam smiled, but his voice was laced with worry. "I couldn't sleep without you. I just wanted to see what you were doing. I overheard you with your assistant. Why would Ethan leave the country? Is it because of me?" He looked down, his eyes red with guilt. Alarmed, Chloe wrapped her arms around his waist and kissed his cheek. "Of course it's not because of you. He's just a child throwing a tantrum. Don't pay him any mind." But Liam still looked worried. "But his mother entrusted him to you. What if something happens to him?" Chloe caressed his face, her voice turning cold. "If something does happen, it will teach him a lesson. Maybe then he'll stop causing trouble." Surprised by her indifference toward me, Liam couldn't suppress a triumphant smirk. He quickly lowered his head to hide it, pressing a kiss to her lips, a cruel smile playing on his own. Ethan, you'd better stay away for good. Chloe might have said she didn't care, but she secretly continued to have people search for me. But every time she asked for an update, the answer was always the same: nothing. After a month, there was still no news. When her assistant cautiously delivered the report, Chloe stiffened in her chair. After a long silence, she waved him away, telling him to keep looking. Once the door was closed, she leaned back, exhausted. She pinched the bridge of her nose in frustration. She had naively assumed I had left the country in a fit of pique, angry that she had married Liam. But after all this time, there was still no trace of me. In a daze, she suddenly remembered all the times I had told her I didn't love her anymore, all the times I had promised to stay away. At the time, she had been so sure of my love that she had dismissed my words as just another attempt to get her attention. Now, she realized I had been telling the truth, and she had been the only one who didn't see it. Chloe lowered her hand and glanced at her desk. In the corner where a photo of the two of us used to sit, there was now an empty space. She had thrown it away the day I confessed my feelings. She looked around the office. It used to be filled with little traces of me, but now, just like me, they were all gone. She stared at the empty corner for a long time before finally picking up her phone to call my mother. My mother had entrusted me to her. Now that I was missing, it was her duty to confess. But before she could get a word out, she was met with an automated message. The number was no longer in service. Her mind went blank. A terrible premonition crept into her heart. Her hand, clutching the phone, remained frozen for a long moment before she finally lowered it. She and my mother had been close friends, despite the age gap. Why would she be blocked? She racked her brain but couldn't come up with a reason. Just then, her assistant returned, carrying a large box. Ms. Sterling, a package for you. The courier said you have to open it yourself. Chloe stared at the box for a long moment before telling him to place it on her desk. As she reached for the string, her heart began to pound. She had a feeling that opening this box would send her spiraling into an abyss. After a moment's hesitation, her clenched fist relaxed, and she slowly untied the string. The moment she saw the contents, her eyes flew open. On top of the contents lay a note, written in large, bold letters: evidence of Liam Donovan's crimes. In that instant, the world went silent. With trembling hands, she began to pull out the contents, one by one. The deeper she went, the darker her expression became. Back at the Sterling mansion, Liam, dozing in the sun, was startled awake by his ringing phone. He frowned, squinting at the screen, and answered without checking the caller ID. "Hello," a vicious voice on the other end sneered. "What, you forget all about me now that you've made it to the top?" Liam's grip on the phone tightened. He sneered. "How could I forget? You're the worst hitman I've ever hired. I paid you a fortune and you couldn't even get the job done. If I were you, I'd have killed myself by now." As Liam argued with the man on the phone, a dark figure appeared silently behind the glass doors of the sunroom. Not even the blooming roses in the garden could soften the darkness in Chloe's eyes. The moment he hung up, she slid the glass door open and walked toward him. A moment later, a blood-curdling scream echoed from the sunroom. In the pouring rain, a bloody figure was frantically loaded into an ambulance by the household staff. A pair of black heels clicked away into the distance. The chaos at the Sterling mansion had no effect on me, all the way in London. Before I went to my mother's house, I carefully checked my body, making sure none of my injuries were visible before I felt it was safe to go. My past life, my old life, it was all over now. I didn't want my mother or my future fiancé to worry about any of it, but I had no idea that two people had already been secretly digging into my past. One of them, of course, was my mother. Ever since she had established herself in London, she had wanted me to join her, but I had always refused because of Chloe. My sudden change of heart was completely out of character. So, she had secretly investigated my life back in New York. When she saw the photos of my bloodied back, my mother, a woman who had been composed her entire life, felt a rage she had never known. The son she had cherished and protected his whole life had been brutalized by the very person she had trusted to care for him. And Chloe had done this to him, all for a man who was a cold-blooded murderer. The rage burned in her chest. She had been so wrong about Chloe. My son had been foolish, yes, but Chloe could have called her to deal with it. Instead, she had not only kept silent, but had nearly killed him on multiple occasions. If it weren't for the years Chloe had genuinely cared for me, my mother would have flown back to New York and handled things herself. So, after she had calmed down, she decided to cut all ties with the Sterling family. She repaid every penny the Sterlings had ever spent on me, tenfold, wiring the money directly to their account. As for the emotional debt, my suffering had more than paid that off. Finally, as a thank you to Chloe for disciplining her son, she had 2 copies made of the evidence against Liam. One she sent to the Sterlings, the other she sent to the NYPD. My mother had wanted to talk to me about it, but seeing how reluctant I was to speak of the past, she decided against it. The other person who had looked into my past was, of course, my fiancée, Olivia Prescott, CEO of the Prescott Group. As her future husband and a future member of the Prescott family, it was only natural for her to want to understand my past to avoid any future misunderstandings. So when she learned what I had endured at the Sterling mansion, she was shocked, but her shock quickly turned to compassion. In her eyes, everyone had the right to pursue love. My pursuit of Chloe had been obsessive, yes, but once I had given up hope, I had done everything in my power to stay away from her. But strangely, my avoidance hadn't made Chloe let go. And in all of this, Chloe was far from blameless. A simple background check would have revealed the truth about her precious first love. But she had been blinded by love. Thinking of this, Olivia couldn't help but roll her eyes. Then, she tossed the file into the fireplace, watching as the flames consumed the pages, leaving nothing but ash. She only wanted to know so she could understand. She would never bring it up with me, and she would never allow anyone else to reopen those wounds. I, of course, knew nothing of this. I was currently standing in front of a row of suits, trying to decide what to wear. Although my mother had arranged my engagement, I had yet to actually meet my fiancé since arriving in London. My health had been so poor when I first arrived that I'd spent a long time recovering. My fiancé had sent gifts and well wishes, but this would be our first time meeting face to face. I had seen her picture, but I knew nothing about her personality, so I was taking this first date very seriously. As the waiter opened the door for me, I immediately saw her, rising from her seat by the window to greet me. If Chloe was a frozen abyss, Olivia was a warm spring day. At first, I hadn't believed my mother. How could anyone be truly faithful, especially in a family as notoriously complicated as the Prescotts? I had done some research on her family before our date, and my main takeaway was one word: messy. While Olivia's direct line was known for their fidelity, the extended family was a tangled web of affairs and illegitimate children. And since they all lived in close proximity, it was hard to imagine she hadn't been affected by it all. But today, I realized how wrong I had been. After I sat down, Olivia introduced herself, handing me a portfolio that answered every question I might have had about her family and her business. And she wasn't just all business. Throughout the meal, she was incredibly attentive, refilling my tea, handing me a napkin. The entire experience was surprisingly relaxing. I studied the woman before me, 3 years my senior. Her features were soft, her eyes filled with a genuine warmth and concern, and a gentle smile never left her lips. I suddenly thought that a life married to someone like her would be a very good life indeed. At the end of the date, Olivia thoughtfully drove me home. I was so engrossed in our conversation that I didn't notice the black Maybach parked across the street from my mother's estate, partially hidden by the trees. Behind its tinted windows, a pair of dark eyes watched the Maserati I was in. 3 months later, Chloe saw me again. It took Chloe a full week to process the truth after she received that box. The boy she had loathed had been framed, and the man she had loved with all her heart was a murderer. At first, she couldn't accept that the boy she had loved since childhood could be so cruel. That night, neither the Sterlings nor the Donovans got any sleep. The Donovans wanted to sweep it under the rug. After all, no powerful family had perfectly clean hands. Mrs. Donovan herself had dealt with her husband's mistresses. They tried to pass off Liam's actions as merely extreme. Besides, Liam had paid a price, hadn't he? He had almost died. The Sterlings, however, were adamant that Chloe divorce him. They would not allow their daughter to be married to a murderer. As the two families were arguing, the police burst in and arrested Liam on the spot. Overnight, the Sterling family was all over the news. The fairy tale couple's story had a grim ending. The husband in prison, the wife in the hospital. Both families were thrown into chaos. But Chloe couldn't deal with any of that. All she wanted was to find me and apologize. But she had no way of finding me. The investigators she hired always came back empty-handed. Chloe Sterling, once a titan of industry, was now bedridden, broken by the series of devastating blows. She stared out the window with hollow eyes, like a puppet with its strings cut. It was only then that she finally understood how wrong she had been. She had become an executioner, pushing the one person who truly loved her into hell. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw my face, twisted in despair, heard my desperate pleas. And what had she done? She had ignored me, disbelieved me, dismissed me. When Chloe finally returned to the mansion, it was empty. In the past, whenever she came home, I would always be there, popping up from behind to greet her. And every time, she would smile indulgently and play along. Her friends used to tease her, saying I was less like her ward and more like her boy toy. Sometimes, after a few drinks, they would ask her if she had feelings for me. And every time, her answer was a firm no. The 12-year age gap was one thing. It made her see me as a child. But more than that, she had always loved Liam. From the moment she met him, she knew he was the one. As for the strange, fleeting feelings she sometimes had for me, she never gave them a second thought. But now, standing in the empty mansion, she found herself walking toward my old room. The room was just as I had left it, as if at any moment, I might jump out from a corner and surprise her. She stood in the doorway for a long time before finally stepping inside. She didn't do anything, just traced the perimeter of the room, her eyes taking in every detail. Each object sparked a memory. Finally, she reached my desk and pulled open the drawer. It had once been filled with my love for her, but now it was empty. In a daze, she saw me again, tearing up the letters and sketches, heard my voice, over and over, telling her I didn't love her anymore. A sudden, sharp pain seized her heart, so intense it made her double over. Her hand gripped the edge of the drawer, her knuckles turning white. When the pain finally subsided, it was replaced by an emotion she couldn't name. Just as she was trying to identify it, her assistant burst in. "We've found him," he said, his voice filled with excitement. "We've found Mr. Hayes." Forgetting everything else, Chloe immediately flew to London, to my mother's estate. She couldn't wait to see me, to apologize in person for everything, to beg for my forgiveness. But for 2 weeks, she couldn't even get past the front gate. The way the staff looked at her, as if she were the enemy, told her everything she needed to know. Left with no other choice, she waited outside. And today she finally saw me. Her eyes lit up. She threw open her car door, about to call my name, but the word died on her lips. She froze, because as I stepped out of the car, a tall, slender woman got out with me, her arm linked intimately with mine. The gift in Chloe's hand fell to the ground. A white-hot rage surged through her. "Ethan," hearing that familiar voice, I froze. It was a voice I knew all too well. It was the voice she used whenever she thought I had hurt her precious first love. Olivia felt me tremble, and a cold light flashed in her eyes. She gave my hand a reassuring squeeze and gestured for me to get back in the car. Before she closed the door, she squeezed my hand again. "Don't worry," she said. "I'll handle this." The moment the door closed, the warmth in Olivia's eyes vanished, replaced by ice. She turned and slapped Chloe, who was advancing toward the car. The old Chloe would have easily dodged the blow, but now, weakened by everything she had been through, she could only watch as Olivia shoved her to the ground. She couldn't get back up. In the pouring rain, Olivia took an umbrella from the butler and stood over the fallen woman, her calm gaze a silent challenge. A sharp pain pierced Chloe's heart. The woman before her said nothing, didn't even deign to look at her for more than a second. As lightning split the sky, Olivia closed her umbrella and got into the car. The Maserati drove through the gates of the estate, and the massive iron gates swung shut, separating the two worlds. I didn't want to think about why Chloe was here. From the moment I had given up on her, her life had ceased to be my concern. I just wanted to live my own life. Olivia felt the same way. Perhaps it was possessiveness, but she didn't want her fiancé's attention to be on any other woman. We both tacitly agreed not to speak of it again. At dinner, Olivia, now changed into fresh clothes, sat beside me, discussing wedding dates with my mother. As one of the grooms-to-be, I had no objections. I just sat quietly, eating and listening, occasionally chiming in with an opinion. Olivia, meanwhile, divided her attention between the conversation with my mother and me. One moment she was peeling a shrimp for me, the next she was wiping my fingers with a napkin. My ears grew warm. She had been just as attentive at lunch, but I still felt a little flustered. My father used to take care of me like this, back when he was still in New York. But my mother moved to London when I was 6, and Chloe took me in. Chloe had doted on me, yes, but she had also wanted me to be independent, so she rarely helped me with little things like this unless I was sick. And after she got together with Liam, my status in her house had plummeted. Now, Olivia was the second woman to ever care for me so attentively. She treated me like I was something precious and fragile, as if she was afraid I might break. I was a grown man and we were in front of my mother, but I ate the shrimp she peeled for me anyway. In return, I ladled her a bowl of soup. "Be careful, it's hot," I said softly. I reminded her as I passed it to her. Olivia looked surprised for a moment, then her eyes crinkled into a smile. Thank you. Seeing us together, my mother's face was filled with joy. After dinner, my mother and Olivia went into the study. Half an hour later, Olivia came out to say goodbye. I quickly stood to walk her to the door. Even though it was our first real meeting, I was already reluctant to see her leave. But I didn't know how to say it without sounding like a player. Olivia saw my hesitation. She smiled softly and took my hand. I'll see you tomorrow. My eyes lit up, and I looked at her, surprised and pleased. The smile in her eyes deepened as she got into her car. I watched until her car was gone, hidden by the massive gates, before I reluctantly turned and went back inside. Outside the estate, Olivia's eyes fell on the Maybach parked down the street. The tinted windows hid the occupant from view, but she didn't care. She just casually fiddled with the bracelet on her wrist. Some people have too much time on their hands. Over the next month, my relationship with Olivia blossomed. Meanwhile, Chloe, who had been urgently summoned back to New York, was overwhelmed. Even with Liam in prison, the Donovans were still causing trouble for the Sterlings. Mrs. Sterling, who had lived a sheltered life, was so stressed by their harassment that she ended up in the hospital. Mr. Sterling was run off the road by one of the Donovan's men and ended up in the ICU. The series of disasters sent Sterling Industries stock into a nosedive. Chloe was drowning in one crisis after another. By the time she had finally put out all the fires and returned to London, she was met with another shock. I was engaged. She crumpled the elegant engagement invitation in her hand. The small crystals adorning it fell off, their sharp edges cutting into her palm. Blood welled up, staining the pristine white cardstock. But Chloe, seemingly oblivious to the pain, crushed the invitation in her fist. Impossible. Ethan had loved me so much. He had said he would never marry anyone but me. How could he be engaged to someone else? She felt as if a precious treasure had been stolen from her, her anger laced with a sharp, stabbing pain. After a long moment with her eyes closed, she told the driver to turn around and head for the engagement party venue. The grand old manor was divided into two levels. The upper level was for close family and friends of the Hayes and Prescott families. The lower level was for business associates. The irony was, Chloe couldn't even get into the lower level. Her dark aura made the attendant blocking her way tremble, but he stood his ground. "I'm sorry, Miss Sterling," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "The hosts have given explicit instructions that you are not to be admitted." Chloe stared at him for a long moment before a bitter, self-mocking smile touched her lips. She stood in the falling snow, her thin coat offering little protection from the cold, and looked up at the second-floor ballroom. Through the large windows, she could see me on the dance floor, holding Olivia in my arms, my light steps a clear sign of my joy. As the dance ended, we shared a deep kiss under a sky full of fireworks. The sight was a dagger to Chloe's heart. Even though I had told her countless times that I no longer loved her, she had refused to believe it. From the time she took me in at age 6, I had only had eyes for her. She had known, but back then, her heart had belonged to Liam, so she had paid my feelings no mind. Now, her indifference had finally driven me away, into the arms of another woman, and only now did she realize, too late, that she had loved me. She had loved me for a long time. When I told her for the last time that I didn't love her, when she found out I was gone, when she searched my empty room for the letters and sketches I had made for her, when she saw me in London with another woman, she had, without even realizing it, fallen in love with the boy who had chased her for so long. But she had suppressed that love, treated it as something to be hidden away. She had pushed it down again and again, but it had always resurfaced until now when it finally burst forth. Chloe's heart felt like it was being crushed in a giant fist, the pain so intense she could barely breathe. For a moment, she wanted to storm the party, run upstairs, grab my hand, and tell me that she loved me, that she had been wrong, and beg me to give her another chance. But in reality, her feet were rooted to the spot. She couldn't move. The snow covered her, but the chill that settled over her body was nothing compared to the ice in her heart. She watched as the boy who had once loved her more than life itself stood beside another woman, whispering sweet words of love. In my eyes, she saw a light, a joy, that she hadn't seen in a very long time. In a daze, she was transported back to another night, a rainy night, long ago. The rain had been as heavy as the snow was now. That night, through a window, she and Liam had made love in front of a warm fire, while I had knelt outside in the rain, watching them all night. She had seen the despair in my eyes deepen until finally, I had collapsed. Now, she was finally experiencing what I had felt that night, and she finally understood my heart-wrenching pain and despair. The figure standing in the snow in front of the manor began to attract the attention of the guests. People gathered by the windows, sipping hot cocoa, and whispering amongst themselves. "Who's that devoted soul out there in the snow?" Eventually, even the guests of honor, Olivia and I, were drawn to the window. When I saw who it was, I was surprised, and then I found it almost laughable. I had heard what had happened back in New York. The pure, innocent love of her life had been revealed as a monster, and the wicked, obsessive boy she had despised was the true victim. The complete reversal of their roles had finally made Chloe realize what she had done. And so she had come all this way, to stand in the snow and make this grand, romantic gesture. My grip on my glass tightened, but I casually looked away. My voice was tinged with sarcasm. If Liam hadn't been exposed, I probably would have died waiting for an apology from her. People are like that. You don't know what you have until it's gone. But I had no need for her belated regret. I didn't want to get entangled with her again. It would only bring me more pain. The best thing for both of us was to never see each other again. Olivia said nothing, just silently took my hand, her touch a silent comfort. The lights of the manor went out one by one, and the cars drove away, leaving tracks in the fresh snow. The gates of the estate closed, and still, Chloe stood in the snow, waiting for someone who would never come. The exposure to the cold sent Chloe into a feverish delirium. Hearing her call my name in her delirium, her assistant, unable to bear it, pulled every string he could to get a message to me, begging me to come to the hospital. In the end, all he received was a recording pen, delivered by one of Olivia's staff. Chloe was alone in the quiet hospital room. She stared at the small device for a long time before finally pressing play. After a burst of static, my voice filled the room. If Liam hadn't been exposed, I probably would have died waiting for an apology from her. People are like that. You don't know what you have until it's gone. But I had no need for her belated regret. I didn't want to get entangled with her again. It would only bring me more pain. The best thing for both of us was to never see each other again. She listened to the short recording over and over again. She tried to find some flaw, some proof that it was a fake, but she knew my voice too well. They were my words, unaltered. Every word confirmed that I no longer loved her. There wasn't even any hatred in my voice, just a calm, detached finality that told her, "Chloe, give up, it's over." She threw the recorder against the wall, smashing it to pieces. Her eyes bloodshot, she clutched her chest, gasping for air. The sound brought her assistant running in, who stopped short, horrified at the sight. Before he could speak, Chloe screamed, "Get out!" The door closed, leaving Chloe alone again. She collapsed back onto the bed, her eyes filled with a despairing regret. When she heard that the recorder had been delivered, Olivia, sitting on the sofa at home, allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. Her smile was so bright that it made me smile too as I came down the stairs. "What are you so happy about?" She stood and took my hand. "Just a small, amusing matter." I didn't press her, but she suddenly pulled me closer. Before I could react, she had pushed me down onto the sofa. Her warm lips met mine, stealing my breath away. I soon took the lead, the two of us moving together as if it were the most natural thing in the world. I stopped thinking, didn't want to think. I just held her, pulling her closer, tighter. When the kiss finally ended, we made our way upstairs. Soon, the sounds of our passion could be heard from behind the closed bedroom door. The staff outside, hearing the sounds, quietly slipped away. Even the moon seemed to hide behind a cloud. The next morning, as Olivia came downstairs, she was met by a flustered housekeeper. "Miss Prescott, there's a pile of gifts at the front gate. They're for Mr. Hayes." Even though we were only engaged, from the moment I moved in, Olivia had instructed the staff to refer to me as Mr. Hayes. So, Olivia knew immediately who the gifts were from. Her expression didn't change. "Send them back," she said calmly. "And don't let Mr. Hayes know about this." "Yes, miss," the housekeeper replied and went to take care of it. When Chloe was informed that the gifts had been returned, she simply instructed her assistant to send more. Just when Olivia thought the gift sending would be confined to their home, Chloe showed up at a party, gift in hand. It was a party hosted by a close friend of the Prescott family, and it was my first public appearance as the heir to the Hayes Corporation. The vintage watch on my wrist, a 25th birthday present from Olivia, was the envy of the room. From the moment Olivia and I entered, all eyes were on us, including, I soon realized, Chloe's, from a corner of the room. Seeing me at the center of the crowd, smiling and happy, a bitter look crossed her face. She had almost forgotten what my smile looked like. A long time ago, I used to smile all the time. My smile was infectious. No matter how bad a mood Chloe was in, it would always cheer her up. But after she rejected me, after she got together with Liam, I had only ever been cautious and withdrawn around her. Her grip on the gift box tightened, nearly crushing it. As one of the guests of honor, people kept coming up to introduce themselves. Finally, Chloe started toward us. But before she could reach us, Olivia took my arm and led me toward a private room upstairs. Ethan, Chloe's face fell, and she tried to follow, but two large bodyguards blocked her path. The Prescott family butler stood before her. "Ms. Sterling," he said, his voice polite but firm. "A person should know their place. You know what you did to Mr. Hayes. The fact that Miss Prescott hasn't retaliated is a kindness you have not earned." His words were like a series of invisible slaps, making Chloe's face burn with shame. The scene, of course, attracted the attention of the other guests. Those who knew our history began to whisper, their words dripping with scorn for Chloe's poor judgment. The man she had cherished had turned out to be a murderer. The boy she had tormented had been the innocent victim all along. And now she was pathetically begging for forgiveness, as if life were that simple. Seeing the situation escalating, the host finally intervened and politely asked Chloe to leave. Chloe's face was a mask of humiliation, but she knew she was in the wrong. She turned and left. The sound of applause that followed her out only amplified her shame. Upstairs, in the private room, Olivia tried to comfort me. If she had known Chloe would be there, she never would have brought me. Or, at the very least, she would have had Chloe removed before we arrived. But Chloe seemed determined to win me back. She had delegated all her responsibilities back in New York and had even bought a house in London. It wasn't that Olivia couldn't get rid of her, but Chloe had been my guardian for many years. That history made things complicated. It was why my mother had told Olivia to just leave her be. The past was the past. It was best if all debts were considered paid. I could sense Olivia's unease, but I was in no mood to talk. I just squeezed her hand. We sat in silence until the fireworks began. Because of that incident, Olivia hired extra security for my birthday party, posting guards at every entrance to make sure Chloe couldn't get in. Surprisingly, Chloe was a no-show. Olivia was surprised when the butler reported this, but she still felt a sense of unease, so she told him to keep the guards in place. My birthday party this year was an extravagant affair. Olivia had booked digital billboards across London to display birthday messages, and the entire estate was rigged with fireworks, set to go off the moment I blew out my candles. The grounds were filled with my favorite flowers and a collection of vintage sports cars. The pile of gifts from the guests was almost as tall as the massive custom-made cake. At the height of the party, I put on the Lover's Heart watch, which Olivia had bought for me at auction for a staggering sum, and we blew out the candles on the cake together. The moment the flames went out, the sky outside erupted in a dazzling fireworks display. The fireworks lasted for a long time, continuing even as the guests began to depart at the end of the night. As the hosts, Olivia and I stood at the entrance, saying goodbye to our guests. Just as I was about to speak, the sky was suddenly filled with drones, their lights forming intricate patterns against the darkness. I glanced at Olivia, assuming it was her doing, but she shook her head. "I did arrange a drone show for you, but it wasn't supposed to be now." Just then, one of the remaining guests gasped, "Oh my God, it's beautiful. It looks like a confession. How romantic." Her words made Olivia and me exchange a look, and we both looked up at the sky. The more I looked, the more familiar the patterns seemed, and the darker my own expression became. At first, the drones formed images of me alone, but then the images changed to show two people. The other guests might not have recognized the woman, but I knew instantly that it was Chloe. My mind went blank. Was she trying to ruin me? The live-streamed billboards had been turned off, but there were still people watching from their balconies and windows. And now, Chloe was putting on this public display of affection. I could only imagine the headlines tomorrow. Olivia had the same thought. I was her fiancé. Another woman confessing her love for me at my birthday party. She couldn't even imagine the fallout. Her face hardened. She called for the head of security to have the drones taken down, then turned to me, her voice calm and reassuring. "It's all right, Ethan. I'll handle it. I won't let this affect you." She had one of the drivers take me home, then got into another car herself. A black sports car tore through the London night, disappearing into the darkness. Across the city, Chloe stood on a rooftop, watching the distant drone display, a lonely look in her eyes. A long time ago, my one birthday wish had been for a drone show. It was a small wish for a little boy, and Chloe had happily granted it. From then on, she had made sure I had a drone show every year, until I fell in love with her, until I was madly in love with her. That was the first year there was no drone show. The first year, she didn't even acknowledge my birthday. And this year, my wish would have been for a drone show depicting the two of us, happy together. After all these years, she was finally giving me my drone show. But the boy who had wanted to grow old with her was now with someone else. Chloe gave a bitter smile, pushed aside her loneliness, and turned to leave. In the next instant, a figure lunged at her out of the darkness. Chloe, caught off guard, was knocked to the ground by Olivia. For the first time, Olivia lost control. If her head of security hadn't intervened, she might have killed Chloe right then and there. Olivia ignored the scrapes on her own knuckles and stared down at the woman on the ground. "How much must you hate him?" she seethed. "To try and destroy him over and over again. Do you have any idea how many people were watching tonight? How many people saw your little performance? What are they supposed to think of him now? Will you not be satisfied until the whole world is mocking and insulting him?" "No, that's not what I—" Chloe struggled to her feet, coughing up a mouthful of blood as she tried to speak. "Not what? Let me tell you something, Chloe. If Ethan gave a damn about you, you would have been dead the day you set foot in this country." Olivia's voice was laced with venom. "And you should know, tonight wasn't just his birthday. It was the night he found out he's going to be a father." The words hit Chloe like a physical blow. Her mind went blank. She stared at Olivia in disbelief. "What did you say? How dare you? How dare you? I never had his child, and you're pregnant." Olivia didn't move, just watched as her bodyguards knocked Chloe to the ground again. "How dare I? Because Ethan loves me, and I love him, and we want to raise our child together. You want to talk about daring? How did you dare to throw him in a freezer? How did you dare to beat him half to death? His mother asked you to look after him, and you nearly killed him. How did you dare?" Olivia looked down at Chloe's pale face and sneered. "I'm pregnant. We're going to be a happy family. If you have any sense at all, you'll stay away from him." Olivia didn't wait for a reaction. She tossed her blood-stained jacket aside and headed back to the estate. She cleaned herself up before quietly slipping back into our room. Seeing me sleeping peacefully, a soft light entered her eyes. She gently wrapped her arms around me from behind and drifted off to sleep. When I woke up, Olivia was sleeping beside me. Seeing me awake, she opened her eyes, leaned in, and kissed me. "It's all taken care of," she whispered. The anxiety that had been gnawing at me all night finally subsided. I held her tighter and murmured my thanks. We decided to get married before Olivia's pregnancy began to show, so we started planning right away. Time was short, but we didn't cut any corners. We flew back to New York to get our marriage license and take our wedding photos. Olivia loved the idea that our baby would be in our wedding photos with us. Soon, our wedding day arrived. The ceremony was simple, but every detail was steeped in quiet luxury. We were married in my favorite chapel, and the flowers were a mix of our favorites, roses and jasmine. Because we didn't want to overtire Olivia, we only invited our closest friends and family. From the vows to the exchange of rings, we were completely focused on each other. When the pastor pronounced us husband and wife, we shared a deep, loving kiss. In that moment, there was no one else in the world. The wedding was a small, private affair. It wasn't until the next day that Chloe, back in New York, heard the news. The urge to win me back was still there, but she knew it was hopeless. Whenever she closed her eyes, she heard my voice from the recorder. The best thing for both of us was to never see each other again, but she couldn't stay away, so she started watching me from afar. The pile of gifts she bought for me grew, each one a testament to her desperate hope that she could somehow win me back. But in reality, not a single gift was ever delivered. Not only were the gifts returned, but her texts went unanswered. Chloe knew why, but she couldn't accept it. The boy who had loved her more than anyone, the boy she had cared for, how could he be married to someone else, starting a family? But her regret was useless. 10 months later, Olivia gave birth to a daughter. Olivia, who had always doted on me, now poured all her affection onto our daughter. Our daughter was only a few weeks old, and Olivia had already showered her with gifts worth a fortune. We also established a charitable foundation in her name. At our daughter's 1-month celebration party, the gifts from our guests piled up into a small mountain. Back in New York, Chloe had also chosen a gift for my daughter. To protect our daughter, Olivia and I have kept her out of the public eye since she was born. You won't find a single picture of her online. Chloe had only heard through the grapevine that our daughter looked just like me. Hearing this, a distant look came into Chloe's eyes. If there hadn't been all those misunderstandings, if Liam hadn't been in the picture, would we have ended up together? Would our child have looked just like me too? She remembered back when I was still in love with her, how I used to fantasize about our future children. I had even drawn sketches of what I imagined they would look like. But the moment I had shown them to her, she had torn them to shreds and thrown them into the fire. She had even told me coldly that she would have children with anyone in the world, but never with me. She told me to stop having such unrealistic daydreams. The memory brought a bitter taste to her mouth. I used to be the one with those daydreams. Now, she was the one dreaming of having a child with me. Just then, there was a knock on her study door. "Miss Sterling, the car is ready." Chloe picked up the gift from her desk and headed out. On the way to the airport, she leaned back with her eyes closed, mentally rehearsing what she would say to me. But just then, a blinding white light flooded the car. There was the screech of tires and a violent crash. In the back seat, Chloe was thrown forward by the impact, her head slamming against the front seat and then the roof. Shards of glass rained down, cutting her skin. The car was sent flying by a large truck before crashing back to the ground. Blood poured from her numerous wounds. In that moment, she felt no pain, only a deep sense of regret that she would never see me again. The air filled with a cacophony of screams, ambulance sirens, and police sirens. Inside the wreckage, Chloe felt an overwhelming drowsiness, and then, silence. At the hospital, the Sterling family huddled outside the operating room, their faces etched with anxiety. The clock on the wall ticked away the hours. As dawn broke, the doors to the operating room, which had been closed all night, finally opened. The Sterlings rushed to the surgeon, desperate for news. The surgeon's expression was grim. He hesitated before speaking. "She has a severe concussion and multiple fractures, but those are the least of her worries. The main concern is a hematoma in her brain from the impact. It's pressing on a critical nerve, making surgery too risky. We'll have to wait for it to dissolve on its own. Until then, she will remain in a vegetative state." Hearing the prognosis, Mrs. Sterling's eyes rolled back in her head, and she nearly fainted. After a long moment, she finally spoke. "The driver who hit her, where is he?" The family's butler stepped forward. "The truck driver died at the scene, ma'am." But what? Spit it out." Mrs. Sterling's face was a mask of rage and impatience, and her furious expression made the butler flinch. The butler steeled himself and continued, "Our investigators have confirmed it. The Donovans were behind it. They arranged the hit because of what happened to Liam." At the mention of Liam's name, Mrs. Sterling understood everything. When Liam was first imprisoned, the Donovans had constantly harassed them, even putting both her and her husband in the hospital at one point. When Chloe returned, she had finally retaliated, using her power to nearly bankrupt the Donovan family, despite their long history. Several key members of the Donovan family were now either in prison or hospitalized themselves. The Sterlings had never imagined the Donovans would have one last move to play. The thought made Mrs. Sterling feel sick. It was a vicious cycle. So when Liam was brought into the interrogation room, Mrs. Sterling couldn't contain her rage any longer. She lunged forward and slapped him across the face. "You bastard!" Malnutrition and the harsh realities of prison life had wasted Liam away. He was now just a shadow of his former self. The single slap was enough to send him sprawling to the floor. But for Mrs. Sterling, it wasn't nearly enough. The thought of her daughter lying in a coma because of this man sent her into a frenzy. She lunged at him, grabbing his collar and slapping him again and again. If the guards hadn't intervened, she might have killed him right then and there. Even with 2 guards holding her back, Mrs. Sterling continued to scream at him. "You bastard! Why wasn't it you in that car? Why aren't you the one in a coma?" Hearing her vicious words, Liam felt a bitter irony. When Chloe had been madly in love with him, Mrs. Sterling had treated him like her own son, calling him son and showering him with affection. Now that Chloe hated him, he was nothing but a bastard to her. When Mrs. Sterling finally tired herself out and stopped to catch her breath, Liam finally spoke. "So I'm a bastard. What does that make your daughter? She claimed to love me, but every time Ethan called, she would drop everything and run to him. She was playing games with him while telling me she loved me. She wanted to have it both ways. Isn't that even worse? It was her own damn fault, but she always had to blame the men in her life. Wouldn't the world be better off without someone like that? Ha 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 ha. She deserved to be in that crash. It would be best for everyone if she never woke up." He dissolved into hysterical laughter. But as he laughed, tears streamed down his face. He and Chloe had been so happy together. If it hadn't been for me, if she hadn't been so torn, he never would have done those things. He never would have ended up like this. It was all our fault. He had done nothing wrong. He was never wrong. As if a dam had broken, he began screaming at Mrs. Sterling like a madman. When he finally ran out of insults, A cruel smile spread across his face. Oh, and I almost forgot. We're still married, and I have no intention of ever getting a divorce. For the rest of her life, your entire family will be stuck with me. Mrs. Sterling was so enraged she couldn't speak, her hands trembling uncontrollably. News of the Sterling family's drama eventually reached me. Hearing Chloe's name again, I felt a brief, distant flicker of something. Since I had left for London, our paths had never crossed. I never would have imagined this would be her fate, but hearing that she was in a coma, I felt nothing. A profound calm. We were strangers now. Her life had nothing to do with mine. The person who had brought it up watched me cautiously and seemed to relax when they saw my lack of reaction. But some still seemed skeptical. After all those years, could I really feel nothing for her at all? I shook my head. After everything that had happened, how could I? Besides, I had more important people in my life now. In the distance, Olivia was walking toward me, holding our daughter. I took her hand in mine. Ethan, she said, her voice soft, we've come to take you home. Home. It was my favorite word. I smiled at my wife and daughter. Okay, I said softly. Let's go home. From now on, every meal, every season would be with them.